There's a film that millions of people remember as a moral lesson about family, Baghban, a story about aging parents who feel abandoned by their children. A film that made audiences cry, call their parents, and feel a deep sense of guilt. But what if Baghban wasn't actually a family drama? What if it was an economic case study about what happens when retirement planning fails? Because when you strip away the emotion, Baghban is not just about love, it's about money, dependency, and a broken system that pretends to be culture. And once you see that, the story changes. Let's start with the basic setup. A retired couple, after dedicating their lives to their children, expect to live with them in old age. Instead, they are shuffled around, treated like burdens, and ultimately forced to survive on their own. The film frames this as a moral collapse of modern children. But economically, it's a retirement funding crisis. The parents in Baghban didn't just want emotional connection, they relied on their children as their pension system. And that's not unusual. In much of India, children are treated as informal retirement plans. Parents invest heavily in education, weddings, and upbringing, with the implicit expectation that the next generation will provide financial and residential support in old age. It's an unwritten intergenerational contract. But here's the problem. It's not formal. It's not costed. It's not protected. It depends entirely on emotional compliance. And emotions are not reliable financial instruments. So, when the Baghban parents retire without adequate savings, insurance, or independent housing, they are not victims of modernity. They are victims of structural underplanning. The system they trusted, family as social security, has no legal guarantee, no fixed return, and no enforceable obligation. It's an investment with no contract. Now compare this to the Western retirement model. In the US, Europe, and other developed economies, retirement is structured through financial systems, pensions, retirement savings accounts, social security, and healthcare support. Parents are expected to fund their own later years. Children are optional emotional support, not economic lifelines. That changes everything. Because when financial independence exists, co-living becomes a choice, not a necessity. Parents can visit, help with grandchildren, or live nearby, but they don't depend on their children's income to survive. There's no shame if parents live separately, because separation isn't abandonment, it's financial design. In contrast, Indian society often treats separation as a moral failure. But what if that shame isn't about love? What if it's a cultural tool used to cover for economic fragility? Here's a provocative idea. Shame is India's substitute for social security. When systems don't provide safety nets, culture steps in to enforce obligation, not through law, but through guilt. You don't save for retirement because you assume your children will look after you. You don't build elder care infrastructure because families are expected to absorb that role. You don't professionalize care because doing so is framed as heartless. The emotional narrative protects the system from being questioned. And that's exactly what Baghban does. It never asks whether the parents planned properly. It never examines financial independence. Instead, it tells the audience, children must sacrifice. But sacrifice is not a policy. It's a short-term patch for a long-term design problem. Now, let's make this even more uncomfortable. The film shows a loving husband who failed to prepare his wife for independence. Amitabh Bachchan's character is portrayed as noble, devoted, and wronged. But economically, he made a critical error. He retired without ensuring stable housing, sufficient savings, a contingency plan. He outsourced their old age to emotional expectation. And when that expectation failed, the burden fell on his wife. This isn't just a story of bad children, it's a story of bad financial planning disguised as virtue. And this is where Bollywood plays a powerful cultural role. Films like Baghban reinforce a narrative where parents' lack of planning becomes children's moral responsibility. Instead of saying, parents must secure their retirement, the message becomes, children must prove their love. That's not family. That's emotional taxation. And emotional taxation grows when financial literacy stays low. So what's the alternative? We need a model that respects both love and economics. Call it the three-generation portfolio theory. First principle: parents must save for independence, not luxury, not excess, just the ability to live without financial dependence on children. Retirement planning, health insurance, and housing stability are not selfish. They are gifts to the next generation. Second principle: co-living should be by design, not desperation. Modern housing can accommodate multi-generational living with privacy, separate entries, granny flats, independent kitchens. That's collaboration, not dependency. It allows emotional closeness without economic pressure. Third principle: care should be professionalized. Elder care, medical support, and daily assistance should not rely solely on daughters-in-law or unpaid family labor. Outsourcing care is not abandonment. It's specialization. Love doesn't require unpaid labor. It requires presence, respect, and planning. Now here's the deeper point. This isn't about East versus West. It's about systems versus sentiment. The West didn't abandon family values. It built financial systems so family relationships could exist without financial strain. India still leans on family to solve systemic gaps. And when families struggle under that weight, culture blames individuals instead of institutions. So when we rewatch Baghban, we can still feel the emotion, but we should also see the economics. Not as a story about cruel children, but as a warning about a retirement model built on hope instead of planning. Because children are not investment vehicles, love is not a pension, and guilt is not a sustainable economic policy. This isn't just a movie breakdown. It's a reminder that the future of family depends not on sacrifice, but on structure. And the real tragedy of Baghban wasn't that the children moved on. It's that the parents were never taught how to stand on their own.